Oh, yes, hello and good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to this installation of the Women's Steam and Heroines talk show. On this talk show, we host men and women who are doing amazing things around the world to make the world a better place, to make Africa a better place. These talk shows are geared towards showcasing men and women, not just women, but both men and women from across the world who are doing things that are changing the world. For our first time viewers, please feel free to share with your friends and share with people in your network so that they could also join us and be part of this conversation. Today, we are continuing this series and we're discussing friendship, leadership, family, and positivity. Today we are proud to have Mr. John from Epats, Germany. He
Mhm.
is an artist, a coach, and a consultant on positive psychology. Welcome to the talk show.
Thank you very much. I'm
Yes,
very happy to be here and to join.
wonderful, wonderful. These talk shows are small mini series where we have a conversation about different topics and things that are in our day-to-day lives. Our viewers are young people and adults, and so we share a lot and make sure everyone gets what we are talking about. Yes, we're happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
You're right. Yeah. Thank you very much to hand over. So, first of all, my name is Jörg, which is a little bit difficult with this German funny umlaut with the two dots over the O. And I'm Berlin based and I have a background as an artist. So, many years ago, I started to study art in my hometown in Münster, which is the western part of Germany. And I moved in 1988 to Berlin. And what I did there, first of all, to make a living, but then I discovered I really love it. So I started to teach. And what I did is, so I entered, yeah, so-called schools for adults and kids. And later I worked at the museum teaching little kids, children about art and about the art practice. So what I've seen so in the trailer as an introduction is very, very familiar for me, and I can tell you how effectful it is that young kids put their hand on the material and create something. So my background is being first of all an artist, and then secondly, so I'm a systemic consultant and coach, which means so well, we dive into questions and solve problems, but also I'm a deep lover and enthusiast about positive psychology, which is now for me and also for my co-founder Marlene Nebelung and me. We founded the company Parts, which means positive psychology and arts, which is a very, very strong lever, a huge approach and message we want to bring across the world to integrate, at one hand, the arts, and at the other hand, positive psychology. So that's a little bit about me and my background. I still do artwork. I'm still working as an artist, producing artworks, which we actually bring again into the teachings, which is always, I mean, funny, interesting, inspiring how to interact with people, um, not only talking to them, but also including artworks, including painting exercises, and so on. So, therefore, Girls for Tech is, feels very related to what we do. And I'm really honored and feel very appreciated to work with the initiative.
Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome to Girls for Tech. We are also privileged to have you.
Okay. This is actually a good question. So, what does psychologists do? Well, if you think about a psychologist, sometimes we think about a couch, a person is laying on the couch, and the psychologist is listening to the person. But this is like an old kind of understanding. So it's really much more that there is a person who has an understanding about mental health, about life questions, and so to say, a psychologist is a trained person, so to dive into those situations which might be a challenge, and together with the client, with the client, so the psychologist tries to find a solution, tries to find how to grow, and last but not least, to get into a situation to live a better life. So that's in a nutshell. I'm not a psychologist, but I work very closely with a psychologist, my co-founder Marlene, she is one. And it's always interesting to see how we compare each other in terms of her expertise, in terms of my expertise as an artist. So therefore, I think art is not psychology, but there are a lot of aspects like visual thinking, using images um, in the work as a psychologist, which helps a lot for people to get access to how they can flourish, how they can grow, and how they can be better or happier, more happy people within the life situation. Well, yes, as an artist working in the field of positive psychology, I mean, so as I said, so a strong element of positive psychology is really to unleash an inner picture, to unleash the potential of what we're dreaming about. What is our understanding about a situation? What is our understanding how life can be more successful? And therefore, positive psychology and the arts go very well together. So simply imagine you think about your life situation in the past, present, and in the future, which could be a very typical question for psychologists, but also a person who has an approach to positive psychology. And with the arts, we run such an exercise basically by to let people paint the situation. How do they imagine the past? How do they imagine the present? And how do they imagine the future? So therefore, arts, visual thinking, and positive psychology goes very well together. And to follow up with the approach of positive psychology, I think most important is that we think about ourselves as human beings, that we have the capability, that we can grow, that we can flourish, that we can really create a good life, family situation, and situation with friends. So speaking about a little bit about personal development and also about team performance, that's also, I think, a very good point of the question. So the personal development is, first of all, explore your understanding about yourself. So for instance, to make it very clear and direct, if I think about my own strengths, and creativity is one of my main strengths, and curiosity and love of learning, that means, so how can I develop myself into a situation that I can bring these strengths more to life? And how can I apply them to various situations in my work as an artist and working in the field of positive psychology? For instance, so designing programs, running programs, what we did with Girls for Tech was fantastic to see. So how we can use that approach and try it out in a different situation, in a different context of Girls for Tech, see if the demand fits. And also, so how is it useful, or how can we use it for the topic of personal development. And for team performance, it's very much the same. If you think about strengths within a team, let me say you want to generate a new initiative, you want to go forward with innovations, you need people with a creative ability, but also you need people, of course, who have an understanding how to run, let's stay with Girls for Tech and Innovation, how to bring things, actions to the ground to make it actually happen, which means you have to follow up. So the idea is at the beginning, but then, of course, you need people who are able to follow up, to perform, to make it happen, to put things and ideas, creative ideas, into action. So therefore, in that sense, thinking about strengths and team performance, it's always how we combine the different strengths of the various team members. And if we are aware, if we have an understanding, if we acknowledge each other's strengths, then cooperation becomes very, very significant and very effective. Oh, this is about how can positive psychology be practiced in families to ensure peace and harmony. I think this is really a wonderful question because, first of all, so if you think about ourselves, if you reflect upon who we are, what strengths we have, I think there's definitely a good idea or a good opportunity how we can integrate positive psychology into the field or into the practice of families. I give you a very simple example. One of the pillars of positive psychology is the broaden and build theory of Barbara Fredrickson, which simply means, so if you actively play with positive emotions, like thank you, oh, I'm very inspired, I'm very proud of what my brother, my sister, my father, my mother, or my son or daughter is doing. So slightly, so an upspiraling dynamic will be created. So if you have an understanding about what positive emotions, as an example, does within a family or in a social context, I think that is definitely perfect for put that into practice in our relationships with friends and, of course, within the family as well. An additional point, I think it's also simply to acknowledge, simply to appreciate what the other person is doing. And as I told you about my colleague Marlene Nebelung and me, so we do this all the time within our collaboration, which is more on a business level. But I think also it's the same in the family practice. So if I mean, as a fundamental idea, if I have an understanding so that the actions, the thoughts, what we do, how we act within a family is appreciated by the other one, is welcomed by the other one. So I think we are in a good shape. And often you see so how the practice in family becomes like, it's like a routine process sometimes. And then you have to remind yourself that that is not the way how the social situation within a family is growing and developing. And to come back to a very practical example here, so I have a 15 years old daughter, Nelly is her name. And I still remember a couple of years ago when we really taught her that it's not normal that we bring all the stuff, food, water, drinks, everything on the table, and it's just a given because she's a daughter. It's something we do for us and for her. So teaching her to say thank you became one of the very natural attitudes within our family. And I often see this, it sounds very natural. I think it sounds like, well, it's all given and it's super normal. But very often I can see this in different social contexts. It isn't. So it means, so if we train ourselves with such a simple exercise like, hey, thanks for bringing me the water, or wonderful, your idea helped me a lot to think through my situation I have, or simply to say, hey, Nelly, if you talk to your daughter, to your son, I'm very proud about what you do. I think you do this very well. So these are definitely effects in terms of positive psychology and how to nurture so the social situation, the way how we think, the way how we act, the way how we um, well simply live together as a family and its members. Okay, I've changed it. Okay, let me take a quick here. Um, yeah, the PERMA program is about strong pillar of positive psychology. So if you open up that field, so strengths, what I talked about is one pillar, but the other strength is this PERMA model. What does PERMA means? PERMA stands for 5 columns, so to say. It's positive emotions, E for engagement, R for relationship, M for meaning, and A for achievement. And so there are many, many, many studies out. If you emphasize, if you take a look at the 5 pillars, and if you start, so to say, to invest into the development of these elements, so then, for instance, for a team situation, the team starts to flourish, starts to grow, and the overall atmosphere, the overall coherence, how people work together, starts to change significantly. And it's simply people feel much better about what they do. But last but not least, and most important, is the way how they work together. That brings me to a third point beside strengths, PERMA, and the third point is psychological safety. Psychological safety is also an inherent part of the PERMA program. And what is meant by psychological safety? In a nutshell, you can say psychological safety is there if a person within a team, but also could be in a family, of course, is capable, is able to stand up and to speak out what he or she thinks and not being afraid that she or he is punished. If you touch that aspect of positive psychology and also of the PERMA aspect, it becomes truly tricky. It's in a nutshell, I would simply say, so it's very usual. It should be, I mean, one of the fundamental works how we or points how we work together. But very often we see how difficult it is to establish psychological safety. Therefore, so the PERMA program is that we try to introduce to the different concepts, such as strengths, positive emotions, and also the positive psychology. So what we do is, so the PERMA is like the red line, it's like the fundament of the whole program. And if you speak about positive emotion, that had a lot to do improving and building relationships. So therefore, or just to add with a second example here, if we work together as a team and we define, so what is the essence of our work, what is our purpose, then it has a lot to do with meaning, with the M of PERMA. So PERMA is somehow like the red thread through all the activities and gives a guiding structure through all the different teachings, approaches, tasks we are going to use and apply within the program. Oh, a wonderful question with with a steam here, because I'm thinking actually about my daughter as well here, and her age and friends of her. I think definitely there is a need that girls all over the world really train themselves, especially in science and technology. I mean, of course, I'm an artist. I would love to see also the arts being involved, and there's no contradiction. But still, today we see in a lot of educational situations so that it really needs an effort to encourage, especially girls, even in Western countries, even in Germany, I would say, to encourage girls to do so and to emphasize that approach, to encourage them to do so, especially in terms of technique, science, and engineering. If they do so, they will have a very powerful situation in the future. Adding art, I think art brings a different flavor into it. While, let me say, science, technology, and engineering is more, well, a cognitive, a brain, an aspect of a clever brain, I think art can really add a lot in terms of thinking, creative thinking, in terms of to practice innovation. So, therefore, I do not see a difference according to what is science versus what is the arts, or what is technology and engineering versus arts. I think it is a very good addition, so to train both fields. Art has more so the intuitive side, being aware about associations, train your muscle, your brain muscles in terms of creative thinking. While if you look to the other fields like science and mathematics and so on, you train the structural thinking. And if you study so the biographies of even of very well-known mathematics like Einstein, so it became very clear that it's not only a straightforward structure. He was not only a straightforward structural thinker. He had also this kind of attitude to think through, to embrace the situation, to look through, and then somehow creating an idea which might be, hopefully, be a solution. So what I want to say is, in a nutshell, is art is not a contradiction to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's a very, very needed capability, a very needed aspect to compare technique with emotions or creative thinking.
So, thank you very much for that. Lastly, what is the one thing that a viewer should take from this interview and this discussion that we've had today?
Oh, that's very simple for me. That's very much about strengthen your strengths. Discover your strengths, be aware about that, be proud about your strengths, what you're good in, and try to develop your strengths. Because if you do so, you definitely have a much successfuler, a much happier situation in your life. And also, living your strengths means that you create impact whatever you do, as a teacher, a scientist, an artist, or as a founder of a new initiative like Girls for Tech.
Wonderful. That is very, very, very good. And the idea of discover and develop your strength is something that we're going to take with all of us. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot today. Saying thank you and the word thank you and the word sorry and their importance in keeping families together. That is something that will keep dwelling on and on and on for families to stay together. Uh, I, 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 I love the bit about using art to unleash your inner picture, that picture that is in you, get it out there and show the world what you have. That is something that I would teach to young people that I interact with in my day to day. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for sharing us with us these insightful words. I'm sure we'll rewatch this many times, and every time anyone watches this, they will learn something, something about leadership, something about family and positivity. If you have any other individuals that are doing wonderful things like you do, please feel free to share with them so that they can also be part of these conversations and tell us what they do and how that makes the world a better place.
Absolutely, I will do. So I want to say thank you
Or
from my side for the questions and the interview. And as we work together very closely with Girls for Tech, so I wish all of us, so to say, a huge success for STEAM, a huge success for supporting girls within technique and also in the arts.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Uh, for, for, for anyone watching this, please feel free to share with your friends, share with your family, share with people that you love, share with people that you think would love to get better with their life and become better, become the best version of themselves. Thank you very much. Thank you to Mr. JB for making this happen. All the technicals that you don't see here, he has made them happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.